Hey guys, I'm Shannon Boyle with Wellstone Studio, and I was sitting this morning, sort of watching the news, sort of listening to it, um, kind of trying not to pay too much attention to it, and this question popped up for me as I'm watching. And the question is, are you leading from love, or are you leading from a place of fear? And that's a big one for me. I think it's a big one for everybody, but it's a big one for me, definitely right now, in some of the things that I'm working on in life. And I decided to do what really works for me, and I tried to make it visible. I tried to answer that question in a visible way. And it was really interesting what came out. So I asked myself, am I leading from love or fear? And the first thing that came out was this. It looks nice, right? I think it looks nice. But I took a look at it. And what I ended up doing was actually splitting off love and hope from fear. I was like, I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true at all. So, like, okay, let's try this again. Leading from love or fear. And then this came out. I don't know what that is. And really, hello, Robin, it's good to see you. Really, when I look at this, I see the impact of the news on me. And quite frankly, this looks like an ass of someone having a terrible morning. So, again, I'm dropping into the question, leading for love or fear. And here's where I landed. And beyond where I landed visually, I was able to tap into the question inside of me. And what came out was really surprising, because I think a lot of times we think that love and fear are two completely separate things, that they're not really connected, they're mutually exclusive. And that kind of looks like this, right? We've got love literally split off from fear. And what I know to be true is they're not split. If we look at any part of the leadership process, love and fear are both there all the way through the process, even if we're not aware of it. And let's see, let me grab my thing here. Okay. So, turn this a little bit. So we've got our white space, right? Our lovely white space. The white space is that place in life where we see something we want to change, or we see that something really needs to exist in this space. And when most people confront the white space, there's fear there. There is for me, and there's also love. I am afraid of what can happen here. I am also afraid of what will happen if I don't take action. If I stand on the sidelines and say, I know something needs to be here, but I'm too afraid to do it. And I'm even more afraid of what happens if I don't step forward, right? So we have the first step, right? Is confronting the white space. And you can't see that. So let me do an adjustment here. There we go. So when we're confronting the white space, there's fear of what's going to happen if we do something. There's fear of what will happen if we don't do something. Where the love comes in here is, it's really hard to explain. Where the love comes in when we see something that we want to change. We are seeing our connection, we are seeing our inspiration, not just to the thing that we want to change, but to ourselves, to life in general. And to step out into the unknown and say, this really matters to me. I want to do something about this. I want to contribute. You are so touching a place of love. And you know, if we are looking at, let's say this is fear. Fear and love work like this. Right? This moves into this territory, this moves over here. They are always connected. They are some of our deepest emotions. They're connected to the deepest parts of ourselves and the things that matter the most. So if you're looking to start something and all you can see and all you can feel is this part, you're going to get paused out. You're going to get paused out because this, when we are in fear, everything in our body, everything in our mind, everything in our experience is saying freeze or flee. We're naturally built that way. We're hardwired that way. So if we're only focused here, whatever we want to create in the white space is just not going to happen. Now, when we look at some of the you guys like the Venn diagram? Oh yeah, it's my inner nerd coming forth. So if we look at some of the, hello Lori, it's good to see you. If we look at some of the movement around positive psychology, positive thinking, if you want to call it like higher consciousness thinking, whatever label you want to put on it. A lot of the messaging that we get from that side is that we should only focus here. And that if we put all of our focus here, this will go away and it'll stop bothering us. It'll stop standing in our way. And when we do that, we're really denying something that's an essential part of our experience. We really are. Fear does not block us. Fear, in fact, can really propel us forward and to get us to do stuff that that we just need to do, okay? But when we think that we can't do anything because we need to be in this love part, we need to be in total positive thinking, positive feeling to make this happen, we're going to get paused out that way too. Because the things are not mutually exclusive. Fear and love are so closely related. And if you think of a relationship in your life right now that, you know, maybe it's not going down the track that you really want it to. As you move forward and you look at maybe changing the conversation with this person, putting up some boundaries for yourself, and really looking at the vision that you want this relationship to be a part of and to move towards. I lost my train of thought. If you're looking at changing the course of a relationship, both these things are going to come into play. If you are moving forward in the relationship and you're like, I only want to look at love, a lot of stuff that's related to fear is going to be left unaddressed. You're not going to look at it. And when it comes up, you're going to try and push it to the side and make it like it's not a part of the picture, right? And Mike says embracing fear of the unknown is courage. It absolutely is. And courage involves both fear and love. And, you know, we have Veterans Day coming up next week. And think of this when you think of our folks who have served our country. They come from a place where both these things exist. And they learn in their training not to discount this, because there's a lot of information here. And there is a lot of our experience that needs to be paid attention to. Now, we don't just want to sit in either of these spaces. We want to recognize that these things are moving and flowing with us as we confront the white space and then start really designing the layers of where we want to take things. Now, if we are looking at the second part, if we're looking at the second part of something that we're working on, hello Julie. This is the part where we've already confronted the white space. We've taken the first few steps into something. Hello Andrea. And we're looking at adding the things in that are going to help create the vision that we're going for. So again, if we're going back to a relationship that you're looking to change in life, fear and love are going to play a part in here too. And a lot of times what I see happen with folks, and myself included, is that we get into this space where we're so afraid of what it's going to take and how much it's going to take that we think, out of fear, that we have to add everything in that we possibly can. Like there's just like bottomless, I don't know, salad bowl that we have to put stuff in. So if we're talking about a relationship, it might mean like, you know, making a rule out of fear that I have to go to therapy, I have to go to coaching, I have to have X number of conversations with this person, it has to look this way. Fear is the thing that comes in here and is like, you can't, you shouldn't, you have to, it's not allowed, whatever. That starts coming in this area. And what happens with folks is we end up doing like 50 million things at one time and not really dropping in on purpose to the things we actually want to pursue. Okay, you might call it throwing spaghetti at the wall. I have a mentor in my life who talks to me a bit about throwing spaghetti at the wall, because I will do that in this phase because I'm trying to get something going. So I'm just shooting stuff out, or I'm trying to take a lot of stuff in and it's just too much. Okay? And that comes from fear. Now, when love comes in here, we are dropping in to what we want, what we need, and not up here. We're dropping in all the way through. And when we can do that in this phase, what happens is we end up not doing 50 million things at once and burning ourselves out before we're even to the the end of the picture, to the end of the vision. And if we come down to creating connection, Andrea says there's so many misunderstandings about emotions and empathy. You aren't even talking about love, you're talking about healthy anger. In a sense, yes. And, again, like some of the positive psychology, higher consciousness stuff that we hear in the world is like, we shouldn't acknowledge anger or fear or that glorious sense of doom that sometimes descends upon us. But we're meant to. Anger, fear, doom, hopelessness, they do not prevent the realizing of a vision. They don't, and they're supposed to be there. When we say they're not, or when we get messaging that we're not supposed to have those things, it throws a gigantic wrench in the process. And we want to stop. We want to pause out, or we want to add 50 million things in to what we're working on because we think that's going to fix the problem. When a lot of the time, if I am in a place of anger with something, sitting with it, feeling it, letting it move through me, and connecting with other parts of my experience, like love, goes a hell of a lot further than just trying to say, I'm not afraid, or I'm not angry, right? Because when we deny parts of our picture, we're gonna catch it here, we're gonna catch the denied parts here, and we're never gonna get to this mystery fourth part of what we're working on because we're ignoring part of the picture. Now, when we get down to creating connection, these things, again, still at play. And what I see happen for folks is when they've got most of the pieces and parts of what they're working on, again, let's say a relationship, I've got the boundaries in, I've improved my communication skills, like we're talking, we're connecting again. There becomes a real fear in recognizing what we've already laid down, and a real fear of moving into the leadership that comes from saying, you know what, I've got most of what I need, and I just need to do some tweaks. That's all I need to do. A little shading, change the color a little bit, change the frequency, whatever. When we move down here, we've gotten most of what we need into place. And that's a scary thing. It is a really scary thing to acknowledge, because whenever we acknowledge our power, we're also acknowledging the fact that it's our responsibility. What we do with that power and what we don't do with that power. And I think, when we're talking about love and creating connection, love does not exclude. True deep down love does not exclude. It nurtures, it enhances, and there are also boundaries in true love. There really are. And if we are creating connection, we are actually acknowledging the dark parts of our vision, the dark parts of our experience. We are also acknowledging the light parts, and we are looking at how those things come together and how we want them to come out. You cannot make a picture, you cannot paint a painting without the dark. You can't. You'd have white space. Right? So when we move along in our process, we need to own it. You know, as we start to accomplish something and move forward in a goal and we get stuff the way that we want it, fear will often steer us away from owning it and being like, you know what? This is good. This is where I want it. Fear will also say, like, you're never going to finish. It's never going to be good. Everything's going to fall apart. So you can't be done. Right? Love comes in here in a huge way. We need to love ourselves enough and love other people enough to really acknowledge when we have completed something, when we've arrived at our goal. Because what happens if we don't, we're not going to want to get up and go do the next thing. We're not stoking the fire of inspiration. We're constantly telling ourselves, go back to the drawing board. And we end up in this same old place. Okay? Why is it loving to own your stuff for other people? Because it helps them do the same. When we shout out to the world, whatever that looks like, whether you are on Facebook or whether it's, you know, your friend on the couch, we need to own what we create. We need to own our accomplishments. And we may end up down here with a finished picture that's not quite what we want. But for the time and place, that's what's gonna happen. And that's not bad. It's not wrong. You haven't failed. But you need to acknowledge completion. And, you know, then you go back to the start. Hey, Lisa. So if I come back to the images that I showed you at the beginning, again, you know, I tried to split it off, and when I got done with this, that thing inside me that says, like, oh my God, that hit. Like, that's totally spot on. I can feel it, and it feels aligned. That did not happen with this. This stuck out to me like a sore thumb, because again, it created that division. And I tried to go back in, and I ended up with this fun picture that makes me think of other things. And it doesn't hit. It doesn't hit, but I know where I was when I started this second one. Okay, I had realized I had separated it, and I was still hearing the news from today in the background. I was distracted, and I was listening to the fear that was coming through the TV speakers. And this is how far I got. And I don't like it. Because I was missing the really important piece, which was this love. And you know how I found that? I turned the TV off. Because that's what was triggering. You know? And sometimes we need to turn off the messaging that's preventing us from going all the way through the process. And that can look like turning off your TV on election day so you don't go crazy. It can also look like, again, coming back to the relationship, telling someone that I'm not in a space to talk about this today. And leaving it at that. You don't owe someone an explanation if you don't want to talk. And you don't really owe someone an explanation if you don't want to listen. But you should at least make it visible. talk to yourself and the other person, create that boundary, and come back to that conversation when you're ready to talk or when you're ready to listen, and make sure that you're open about where you're at. I am going to be keeping the TV off today. I'm not in a place where I'm ready to listen. I don't want to hear all the talking, and that's okay, right? So what I want you guys to do is really take a look at the things that you're working on in your career and in your life, and ask yourself, am I leading from love or fear? And am I recognizing that both are in my space? And they both need to be there. Okay? Good question for a day such as today. So I will catch you guys later. Keep an eye out. I'm going to be posting a link for my drop-in class this week. It's free, it's virtual, and if you want to, if you're ready to get into that space where, I lost my train of thought again. If you're ready to get into that space where you can hold both love and fear and really work your process as a leader, come join the class. I'd love to have you. Okay. As always, let me know what you're working on, any questions you have, and I will catch you later.